Luke Saville was a junior world number one and junior Wimbledon champion, but was not able to reach the top 100 in the men's. And he's open and honest about why that was the case and talks everything about the tour. And he's joined by his wife, Daria Saville, formerly Daria Gavrilova, Russian-born tennis player, and she reached world number 20 in 2017, and she's on her way back to the top of the game after quite a few setbacks. They talk openly and candidly about their journeys and also about the tour themselves and some really important things that potentially need to change on the tour. This is Going Pro.
Welcome, guys. Thanks so much for coming on today.
Thanks, mate.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. I've known Luke for a little while. We'd never really met or hung out, just obviously from Adelaide and similar, well, we same birth year, grew up playing in same tournaments, but obviously you were miles ahead with the Adelaide cluster and first time meeting you, Dasha. So thanks again.
Yeah, mate. Seen clips of this, so really like how you go about it, and I think you sort of met our trainer and physio, Mark McGrath, once or twice, I believe.
Yes.
Maybe a couple of workshops. And I think what I like personally about this is you talk about the process and how tough it is to be a professional tennis player. So I think giving that insight from your perspective, you're doing a great job. So thank you.
No, I appreciate it, mate. Appreciate that. It's just, I think it's important to get people that outside of the tennis community to actually understand what's going on in the tennis world. Obviously, I haven't played at the level that you guys are playing at, but I understand the process and how hard it is, even to just get to my level is really, really tough and takes a lot of work, let alone the level that you guys are at. And I think you guys are all completely underappreciated for how good you are and how hard it is as a tennis player. So if we can shine a light on that and I guess talk about some things that maybe people don't want to talk about as well, I think is important too, which we'll get to today. Just kind of touching on what you spoke about, I think yesterday in your Instagram story, Dasha. I think that's kind of something that I've been noticing a lot more in terms of burnout that I want to really dive into. But I guess before we get there, Luke, I had on my mind about just talking about the Adelaide cluster of boys that you grew up playing against. I think part of going professional is you need a really good junior setup that you can actually feed off in an environment that's really competitive, where you're all striving to go to the top. And you obviously had yourself, you had Jack Shapansky, obviously had Lee Tu, James Ma, you had Thanasi, of course. So, and then a bunch of other boys that didn't make it, but were also really good players too. So can you talk us a little bit about how that was and how that shaped you to actually get to where you got to at the top end in the juniors in the world?
I talk about it a lot, and I feel like Adelaide, we've always done a great job for quite a lower population than the other bigger states, but we've always had a great tennis culture. And I look back before I went to the AIS when I was 16, and we had a great crop of players there and a great crop of coaches too. And all those players you mentioned, and I was kind of the older of those guys, but even ahead of me, you had Stefan Szynski, who was a great player at the time, Matthew Langley, Matthew Tevens, all these guys who went on to be good college players. And I think the good thing about that time was if they hit with me, it didn't matter. Or if I hit with the younger boys, it didn't matter. We all had a good culture. And I feel like these days, sometimes when some of the juniors have to hit with sort of lower ranked players or kids younger than them, they don't embrace that and they almost don't get enough out of the session. So I think we had a good culture in that sense. Anyone trained with anyone. And I think that really shaped me. And the good thing is we're still very good mates. Alex Bold as well. He wasn't quite in the program, but still a South Australian. So I was just in London recently and getting around League 2 in qualifying, seeing him make the last round filled me with great joy. So always look back on those times with great memories.
Yeah. And what was it like for you was it in Russia for you, Daria? And your setup? Yeah, how was that? Like, obviously, completely different culture, but what was that training environment for you and your setup?
Yeah, grew up in Moscow. It was pretty competitive. the group of girls that was kind of in my squad, a few of them have made it. Also, this club, it's called Spartak. Um, there were a lot of good players that came out of there. And actually, Andres Rublev's mom was my first coach. Um, yeah, it was also a little bit toxic. I'm not gonna
Mm,
sugarcoat it. And yeah, like I said, the competitiveness sometimes wasn't that healthy.
mm, mm.
The parents, even the players, and yeah, coaches competing. um, but I guess that made me strong and mentally strong. Maybe a psycho as well, but it is what it is.
Yeah, because that's kind of what I was thinking. Like, I didn't know for sure, but obviously Eastern European is completely different culturally to what I would say is normally accepted. I think there is a perception that it's very tough and firm over there compared to how you're treated here. I think we're treated, I guess, like, really nicely compared to some other countries in the world, but it also comes with benefits and a cost. So do you feel like ultimately that was a net benefit for you, like being in that environment that shaped you in a positive way, or do you feel like it's almost held you back in other ways?
I think I will take it as a positive. And I think I became the competitor that I am, and having that never give up attitude on court, maybe because of that.
Mm.
So I try and look at it positively.
Yeah. I mean, you have to essentially, like, you have to reframe it to look at it in this way so that it
Yeah.
can help you. Otherwise, it will ultimately destroy you. But like similar for you, look, it actually was pretty tough environment that you in. I mean, I've heard my own stories of what it was like with some of the coaches that you had, and like it was tough. It was still tough, and I think if you relay those stories now and tell the people of the public, like, if that happened now, people in Australia would be like, well, we got to ban this coach, So, but ultimately, do you still think that we almost need a bit of that in the coaching? And have we gone maybe a little bit too kind of soft and talking, or pandering too much to the parents? Or I don't know, where do you feel the line is there?
Yeah, it was. There were a couple tough coaches in Adelaide at that time. But I think it was a benefit, like Dasha was saying, for me. And I was always a pretty disciplined young fellow, and I think that sort of helped it, enhance it, I guess. And yeah, today, look, I think the kids are a little soft, if we're being honest. And
Yeah.
tennis is tough, man. As this podcast is trying to get out to everyone, to all the viewers, it's tough, and especially as Aussies, we're not going to sugarcoat it. It's also difficult. The traveling, 11-month seasons, it's very difficult, and the workloads are huge, as we've seen a few players getting burnt out now. So it's it's tough. I think we've got to have that happy medium of of I guess coaching the kids, being soft enough, but also you have to prepare them for when they hit the tour. If they want to be pros, it's not going to be easy. They're going to go over to Europe for their first couple of trips, and it's going to be tough.
Mm.
And most likely, a lot of our players have better technique than a bunch of the Europeans, but you can guarantee they'll probably fight harder. They'll put more balls in, because that's just how they've been growing up, and that's how they've been brought up. So I think I have no regrets about the coaches and the environment I was in as a young fella. I think everyone had their place. I had some tougher coaches. I had some coaches that were better with technique. Graham Neville from Adelaide, he was a fantastic coach. I think he's still coaching. Got a great relationship with him. Des Tyson, when I went to the AIS, also another amazing coach, and he was probably a little bit softer, but also had a great resume, coached a lot of players, knew what it takes to develop great players. So it's I've been very fortunate to have a mix,
Mm.
and I think I'm pretty fresh into the coaching, but it's I'm still sort of working out how to deliver some of those tougher messages when required.
Yeah, it's definitely a balancing act, especially when you're working with girls as well, trying to find that balance with the emotional piece, but also delivering a firm message as well that in the right tone is not easy. This episode is brought to you by Rackets and Strings, which is Adelaide's leading racket specialist. There are 2 locations, one in Mile End and one in Summerton Park. But don't fear, if you're not in Adelaide, you can go online and get everything you need, all tennis accessories, all racket sport accessories as well. If you are in store, you can try before you buy. They have 2 hitting walls in both their locations. You can take a demo away, and you're getting expert advice from the best in the business. They are a family business that have been doing it for 40 years, and Matt has been doing it for 20 himself. So he is extremely knowledgeable and is very good at steering you in the right direction to actually get the right equipment that is going to be good for your personal needs. And that's what makes them better than the rest, in our opinion. So please head to Rackets on Strings online, or if you're in Adelaide, get in store and get the best deals in town. With you guys kind of seeing the younger generation yourselves, what advice would you give? Because you obviously know how tough it is on the tour, and you actually need to be very, very resilient. But I'm just seeing, especially in Australia, where growing up with kids that aren't very resilient and maybe a bit delusional about what is required to actually go to the highest level. So from what you're seeing and what you've experienced, what advice would you be giving the younger generation to actually start to make some genuine improvement in these areas?
I think for me, one thing would be reaching out to maybe the older players that they see around that have been traveling, and really chatting to them. And that takes a bit of courage, because obviously as a youngster you're a bit shy, but that actually would help your growth, even just by taking that step and reaching out to someone like us. I feel like we're always open to having chats like that. And I think it's really important to build friendships. I was actually told when I was really young that you can't have friends on tour, or like you can't be friends with anyone, and I didn't take up on that advice. But I think for me, reaching out to like athletes, doesn't even have to be tennis players, but like maybe older athletes.
100%. It's great advice.
I think, that one's a great one. I probably didn't ask enough questions when I was younger as well. And I feel like there's no silly questions. When a young junior comes up to me and asks anything, I think it's great. A, they have the courage to do that, and B, they're always trying to get better and looking for improvements, and all those 1%ers. I think it's super important. I think sort of enjoying competing as well, because again, as you stated, it's very tough out there. And if you don't enjoy competing, battling, beating your opponent, I think that's it's going to be pretty tough for you to get anywhere. And I think the Europeans, they compete from such a young, early age. And I think for myself, I went to Europe when I was 12 for the first time, and got on the clay and all that sort of thing. And that was amazing for me to see the level. I think a lot of our Aussies, our younger Aussies, we sort of stay in Australia quite a bit. And if you're top in your age group, you can sort of feel like you're pretty good. You're beating a lot of your fellow counterparts here in Australia. You go to Europe and you definitely get a reality check. So I think that's one. And possibly the third one, when I think about it, is I guess trust your team, put a good team around you, but also be the driver. Be the driver of your career. Someone like myself, I listened a lot, and which is I was a good boy for a lot of the time. I listened, and if my coach said to do something, I would, and I do it 100%. But at times, it's your career, right? And you have to sometimes make those decisions, those tough decisions, for your best interest. So I think it's, trust the advice around you with those people, but ultimately make the decision yourself.
No, that's big. I was talking to Theo about that this morning, actually, with Lee, and Lee learning about like his experience on tour to actually be the driver of his own ship. And this is stuff that you don't learn, right? This is only stuff that you can experience once you're at those levels and on tour, and you start to understand scheduling. You start to understand all of the admin side of things and that go on behind the scenes. That if at a younger age you can take more accountability to own your own tennis, and that's a big thing that I talk about, especially when the kids turn about like 14, 15, like actually you driving it and messaging me or messaging one of the other kind of people in your team or a parent to organize things yourself, rather than feeling like it's just all orchestrated for you and you're just almost like the person behind the scenes just being told what to do and where to go. So I think that's actually a underrated one that people wouldn't even think about.
Probably also like, learning how to use your iPin and stuff like that. Like I had to learn it very early because my dad didn't really speak English and learned it. He did end up learning it, but at the start I had to drive a lot of it and even have like meetings with agents, translating them to English. And I guess that's the least you could do is actually learn about how to enter tournaments, and I don't think that it's that hard to learn.
No, not at all. No, these are basics that everyone should know. I completely agree.
The saying goes like, be the CEO of your own company, and
Yeah.
your company's your tennis, your career.
Yeah, spot on. Yeah. So, Luke, obviously you won the 2 junior Grand Slams. Can you talk us through a little bit about how you were going at that point, your mindset, what helped you to achieve the heights at a junior level, and then how that transition period was for you?
Yeah, I think looking back on my junior career, I was quite a mature, I guess 17, 18-year-old boy, and that definitely helped in juniors, right? I think, we're still learning the ropes. Everyone's still learning their game and whatnot. And I feel like I was pretty settled in what I did well, and very composed on court as well. Nothing really fazed me. Nothing ever really phases me, even off the court. So I think I was able to do that a lot in juniors. I think a lot of the juniors are a bit up and down mentally, and whereas I feel like I stayed pretty cool, calm, and collected, and that definitely helped me. I feel like I was like that at almost a 12-year-old. So I feel like that held me in good stead in the juniors. Then obviously transitioning was difficult. I was making a bit of a run there a couple years after, when I was about 20. I think I got to my career high of 152, and had a back injury there, but that put me out for 3 or 4 months. But had plenty of time after that layoff to make it, and sort of ultimately struggled a little bit to make it in singles. And I think looking back on those years, and then even the years prior with my development and whatnot, it's super important to have weapons these days, especially in the men's game. I look at a lot of the top 100 players, and they have 2 big weapons, and I probably lacked that. I think I was winning matches because I was staying composed, and the opponents were a little bit up and down. I was able to take advantage of those moments, but ultimately I didn't really have a big serve or a big forehand. They're the 2 main ones, that you see on tour. So that probably held me back, I think, a little bit. So again, I'd probably encourage juniors to work on that. I feel like, and I don't think he'll mind me sort of calling it out, but when Thanasi was young, Thanasi Kokonakis, and a couple of years younger than me, and he and Todd Langman were working quite a bit together, closely together, and Todd sort of had this vision for Thanasi to develop a huge forehand, and it wasn't conventional, especially when he was a 12, 13, 14-year-old. It was, quite a large swing and whatnot, but you see the forehand today, and it's just an absolute weapon for Thanasi, one of the best forehands in the men's game. So I think his serve and forehand has really held him in good stead. So I think for me, was probably that. So if I had my time again, probably looking into trying to get a few more Ks on my serve because I struggled later in my career to serve bigger. Um, but yeah, I think no real regrets. Obviously, you got hindsight, but I gave it my best crack, and then played some doubles as well, and managed to represent Australia in doubles, get to 23, play all the Grand Slams, make a final. So always felt like I played good doubles as a junior. That's probably another thing I'd encourage is to keep playing doubles. I think it's great to work on the skills and the returning. So that really held me in good stead, and I think you're able to play a lot of matches as well when singles is maybe letting you down with a doubles. So and it's great for team chemistry. So I feel like those are probably the little things that held me back.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense. And the game's heading that way as well with just the weapons. It's so tough now. Everyone in the top 100 is so good. But Daria, what about yourself? Like, when did you actually come over to Australia, and what age were you started to actually transition to the women's game? And were you at the top end in the juniors as well?
Yeah, I was number one junior, and I won junior US Open and youth Olympics.
Mm.
I moved to Australia when I was 18, and when I came to Australia, we kind of sat down. Actually, when I came to Australia, I had a busted ACL. I just done my ACL.
At 18.
No, was I 21 by then? 20.
You're about 20.
Yeah,
Wow, that's pretty young though.
yeah, so when I was 20, so just started playing on the women's tour. I got to about 120, maybe 130, and I was pushing to get to top 100. So I was main draw of Australian Open, but then yeah, I did my ACL, and then I've already started the process of getting a residency, and as soon as it got approved, I came to Australia and had the surgery here, and started rehabbing. And I guess it was kind of I mean, you wouldn't say it's lucky that I did my ACL. It's not great, but that gave me so much time to actually get strong in the gym. I've probably, yeah, as soon when I met the team that I was working with at Tennis Australia, actually it was Aaron Kellett. He said that you'll be much stronger than prior this surgery, prior your injury. And I was like, yeah, right. Or like, it sucks right now. Like, I don't want to hear it. But that's exactly what happened. And Pratty and I, Nicole Pratt, we sat down and she asked me a few questions, and she asked me like, what player do I look up to? And at that time it was Simona Halep. I mean, when I was like super young, I was like Serena, Venus, Sharapova, but I knew that that's not how I would be able to play. So I kind of compared myself to Simona Halep, and we kind of started building my game around that, except we kind of flipped it. I think because I think Simona's biggest weapon was her backhand and her wheels, but we really developed my forehand. Took a lot of time and really improved my serve as well by a mile. And then pretty much straight after the injury, when I got back, I was just going upwards, and yeah, it didn't take that long for me to get inside top 100, and then yeah, I ended up getting inside top 20 a few years later.
What was that time like, that huge rise? Like, were you able to handle just, I guess, the huge shift in terms of like media and everyone knowing you, and then handling then the expectation of actually backing up results? How was that for you mentally through that time?
Well, I think I enjoyed it. I think I was young, and I wasn't scared. Like I only looked. I didn't really care about the rankings. I think I just wanted to win tournaments. Like
Mm.
every tournament I played, it was like, wow, that's a cool opportunity. Um, I wish I had the same mentality now. It's a bit different.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Mm-mm. And but how does that change though? And also like this is also for you, Luke, and create a discussion here. Like because you see this a lot with younger players, is just fearless. So at some point, like why does that change? And is there a way to actually almost have that mindset still as you gain age and perspective?
Yeah, I think I feel like we're still working it out in terms of when you come onto the scene and there's really no strings attached. You just love competing. You see ball, hit ball a little bit, but then later on, your first year on tour, for example, you're gaining points every tournament you play. You're gaining points. Then 12 months goes down the track and you start to defend, for example. So defending points is just one of the little things on tour where if you've won that tournament and you step back out and you're not feeling great and you're seeing X amount of points dropping off. So that's the little thing. But yeah, I think honestly for both of us as great juniors, and Dasha was an amazing pro tennis player as well, as she said, top 20. But we both were very fearless in our younger years, and I think we probably got a little more fearful later in our
Mm.
later in our career. So it's not easy. I feel like if you can just still play tennis, in its I guess in its pure form, which is enjoyment, and why really you started playing tennis as a young boy or girl. So that's that is the challenge. But I feel like in your later years you can sort of bring that perspective of it's you come into the twilight of your career. You can enjoy these years and sort of go out, when you look back on it in 10 years time, be proud of how you finished off. And I feel
Mm.
like for me, I was proud because I feel like I was still playing a pretty good level, but just sort of the flame went out a little bit. I felt like I was always one to tick every box throughout my career and I was the ultimate professional, but as soon as I felt like I wasn't, I know how hard tennis is, and someone like me who's not the most talented player going around, I need to be very professional. And as soon as I wasn't, I knew it was time to probably give it away, and I didn't want to go and play doubles again. Just the travel aspect was a little daunting. So it's I feel like it's one of those things where you even let's take a Tsitsipas, for example. I was talking about this yesterday, and I remember it might have been 2017, 2018 Aussie Open, where I think he might have beaten Fed in four, and just playing so aggressive, seeing the ball hit ball, his forehand still is one of the best forehands on tour, but just going after it, coming forward. And now watching him a little bit now, he's definitely pulling back. He's not going after the ball as much, and he's struggling a little bit. So there's obviously that's a bit rough that I'm pointing him out. There's a lot of examples, but
Mm.
I feel like it's that challenge to continuing to play to your strengths and I guess being okay with losing, sticking to your guns and doing I guess doing what feels like you're going to give yourself the best chance to win the match.
Yep, 100%. And Dasha, for you, in terms of in talking about this fearlessness, becoming fearful.
I think I started playing a bit like, oh, there's something to lose, instead of, oh, there's a lot to gain. And yeah, like Luke mentioned, it's like the defending points. Then you get also contracts with your sponsorships, and it's hitting the bonuses, and you're like, oh, well, am I gonna get there? The ranking bonuses, and so you put a lot more pressure on yourself. Um, I think you can still work through it, but you're never gonna be as fearless as when you started. Like I don't think you can even expect that. I mean, to be fair, Alcaraz is still doing it, and respect. Like it's even the French Open, the way he came back and he played some fearless tennis, and he still um, shows that he entertains and he's there for the show. Like that's so good to see. And same with Mira Andreeva. I think from yeah, from a few years back, she's still the same, which is cool. But I've seen her have a few like let down where like her attitude wasn't great, and I think it's only because she's like thinking of the outcome and not the process.
Mm,
And
mm.
like Coco Golf, Sabalenka, I feel like that's why they're there. They're the top 10 players, top 5 players, because they have this attitude that and they have the self-belief. Maybe they still play with a bit of fear, but they still have the self-belief.
Mm. So
I
I
guess
guess
in once you get older, you trust yourself instead of just relying, well, actually, I don't care. I'm
mm,
young and I don't care, but then you just it's the self-belief.
yeah, it's so interesting because like as you get older, you almost feel like you're a better tennis player, but the results maybe don't show sometimes because of this like fearlessness. And then also a lot of other players get better as well. But are there any strategies to put in place here that you think help? Obviously, talking about it, everyone can talk about it. It's easier said than done, right? But actually actioning it is the hardest part. Um, but do you think there's some strategies over a long period of time that can actually help this process that you think anyone can and could take here?
I think playing to your values and really sitting down, whether it's with your team or a mental coach. I mean, you could do it yourself maybe as well if you wanted to, but always playing to your values and um, really focus on the process. And for me, it's really hard now because I feel like, well, what process are we focusing on? Like, I don't know how long I've got. Like, I don't care how much better I'm going to be in 2 years if I stick to this. So I really struggle with that now. And I'm very, outcome focused. And that's also probably because, I don't know how long I'm going to play for. And,
Mm.
but I think when you know, hey, I've got a few more years, 10 more years at least, that's a little bit easier to just focus on the process and remember, like you literally have an next tournament. Like if you wanted to play every week,
Mm.
you can.
Of course, of course.
Yeah, I think much easier said than done, as Dasha said. But yeah, being in the moment and one point at a time, I think's obviously pretty important, and not casting the mind too far into the future and thinking about what happens if I win this match, sort of hold serve here, break, or now I'm serving for the set, and so on. I think it's very important to stay process as Dasha said, and
Staying in the moment. I
so
mean, that's
yeah,
very
Mm.
cliche, but
super
Yeah,
cliche.
but it's
it's
so
the
true.
truth.
Yeah, but I think that's very cliche. For me, and I feel like I did this reasonably well, was like separating the wins and losses, like good and bad, and as Dasha said, playing to your values and playing to your game plan, your purpose and whatnot, and feel like if you did do all those things, but the result didn't go your way, it's not all bad, and sort of staying on the horse as well, and not sort of going up and down on this sort of like roller coaster you can on tour. As we know in
Mm.
tennis, there's probably another tournament the next week, and if you go down on a Thursday or Friday, you're playing again on Monday. if you sort of go into the shed for 1 or 2 days and then you've obviously got to get yourself out of that, you've got to get yourself back to level, but then also gearing up for another match. So I think losses, of course, they should sting, and some people take longer than others. Of course, everyone's different, but I think that going into every match with, as Ash said, your values, maybe a few pointers, and going out there, competing as hard as you absolutely can. But I guess trying to take the positives out of that. And for me, I just thought that was just very important because over the course of a year, I feel like if you can do that and keep your level steady, then it's going to fall your way. And I think doubles helped me with that because a big mindset or mentality, I should say, in doubles is obviously we know the margins are so fine and sudden death juice, super tie breaks, you can win. I won more points than my opponent countless times and lost. You can do that in doubles. So they were tough to cop, tough to swallow those losses. Especially in doubles, you could create 4 or 5 break chances, don't break.
Yeah.
You face one, you get broken, you've lost the set. So, of course, you've got to look into that and reasons why possibly, but sometimes you can genuinely be the better team and lose. So that happens in singles, but much more sort of rarely. So that helped me in doubles to not take them too hard, and trust me, it was tough losing some tight supers and you're on the other side of the world and whatnot, but you just had to do that. And I think the mindset is over the course of a season, if you can take care of the basics in doubles, the first serve percentage, good returning, net position, covering off the right spots, if you can do that all the time, then 55% of the matches will go your way, and that should put you at a certain ranking that you should be.
Right.
That
Toby's had enough.
that when I talk about doubles, he gets a little bit angry. No. If you do the right things over the course of a season, enough matches will fall your way.
Yeah, spot on. It's a really good mindset to have. So Daria, with the injuries that you've had, obviously it takes a lot of resilience to be able to come back because you've had some pretty serious setbacks. So I've got a couple questions here. How have they changed your game? Because I think they can also help you understand yourself and also work on your game in areas that maybe you wouldn't normally work on. And then my second question to that is also, do you think structurally in your body there's been some issues that you maybe didn't address when you were young that you knew about that have caused some like actual pretty serious injuries that you? I think like Mark would be someone that would talk about this sort of stuff, and then also maybe the emotional piece that's kind of stored in the body as to why the injuries occur, which is a little bit more left field. But just kind of curious to create a bit of a discussion around your injuries and what you make about it.
Yeah, I guess we touched on my first ACL and how actually after that I became a better player, a better athlete. So that was 2013, and I was able to develop some weapons during this time and really work on my technique. So actually, after each injury, you all you can do is work on technique, because with my injuries, I had to sit, I wasn't able to move, so we were really working on my kind of swings, and I try to watch tennis as well, and if I wanted to, like, obviously
and
some
forehand on first ACL, right?
yeah, we
Work on that.
yeah, really sorry. We really
Yeah.
worked a lot on my forehand after the first ACL.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, you're right. You're right.
He's just seeing stuff. And then after then I played for a few years, and probably from 2017, maybe even 2016, I started having Achilles pain, Achilles tendon, and I played through pain for a few years. because there was like nothing really to operate on, but and we knew that it was going to be a really long recovery, so we didn't really want to risk it, and it also didn't it wasn't 100% that I would even come back much better. So that was tough. I think the toughest part, I hated playing injured, and modifying my sessions and my training on and off the court. I felt like I couldn't tick all the boxes because I was used to training a certain way and then probably overtraining, to be honest. Um, and so I got really used to that. And then when we had to modify my training, I felt like, well, I can't even compete. And mentally, I was like, well, I'm underdone. I'm not prepared, and I would sabotage myself on court and not even believe that I deserve to win some matches, because I felt like I haven't done the work, even though my tennis was fine, but yeah, my head wasn't. At one point, I was actually getting tested for ADHD, and I saw like a psychiatrist in England. That's another topic, but yeah, I had to also do the forms and all these questionnaires, and they gave me like the I don't know, depression questionnaire, and I answered the question relating to how I've been competing and how I've been playing, and then they're like, well, you're depressed, you need to do therapy. And I was like, no, I'm not depressed, I'm just injured. So I kind of went somewhere else after that. But
So did you do anything, sorry to cut in, but did you do anything with the ADHD? Did you get medication? Did you take anything for that?
Eventually, yes.
And did you find that was helpful for you?
Honestly, I think in life, yes. On court, not so much. But I'm like quieter now in life, and I can actually prioritize things. I mean, I was forgetting everything. I still do sometimes. But honestly, I'm trying to get off like I'm unmedicated right now. But oh my God, sorry. I guess it's showing now that I'm like not concentrating. But yeah, so that was kind of a few years later in my career, after I've actually already reached the top 20. So yeah, I guess my coaches and my team kind of suspected it for many years, but then finally, I guess I was going off the rails with like becoming an adult and having more responsibilities actually in life. Like I would obviously show up to training and train well, and on court I was fine, and competing I was fine. Yes, I would lose concentration, but that's everyone. But I really struggled prioritizing in just day-to-day life, and like forgetting appointments, just little things. But yeah, coming back to injuries, with my Achilles, I then also developed plantar fasciitis on my other foot. So my biggest strength is movement, and I was really struggling with my feet, so I couldn't really move well. And I was like, how am I going to continue this way? And I took a break to actually manage my plantar fasciitis. And that's when I saw Mark for the first time. And to be fair, like going to this experience, I really was like, what is this? This is different.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
not
very
used to
different.
this. And after a few sessions, my plantar fasciitis kind of went away. I still don't know if that's because of Mark or because I was, let's say, I was in the boot. So,
And you weren't on court.
and
so
I wasn't on
just
court.
maybe resting it helped as well.
And but after a few weeks, I messaged or called Mark and said that, it's not for me. I at the beginning, I really didn't enjoy the training. I was so used to just doing my reps in the gym and knowing exactly how many reps I've done, how many squats I've done, and sprints, and measuring it this way. So I really struggled with that, but with the new training. But then, during COVID, I ended up, that Australian Open in 2021, I lost to Ash Barty, and we've done a really good preseason with the new trainer that came from Argentina, and he helped me get really, really fit, and I was playing some of my best tennis, but my Achilles was still letting me down, and I ended up having a surgery. We were scanning it obviously I've had multiple scans on my Achilles, but they finally found something that, hey, this, it's called
Haglund's?
Hagland's
Haglund's bump?
Hagland's bump.
Basically a bone growth?
Bone growth at the back of your Achilles, and they shaved it. The same surgeon who did my ACL did that surgery, David Young. He's done all of my surgeries.
Dasher's got a parking spot at his place.
How good.
No, I don't.
Made the man extremely rich.
She wouldn't drive in and out. That's silly of me.
But then, but I was kind of looking forward to this surgery because I was like, I can't do this anymore. So I had a really good mentality during this. I think it was almost 12 months, at least 10 months of rehab. And there were definitely moments where I was super down because I was still sore. But then I just kept grinding, and I kind of knew that it was my choice to go for the surgery. And the following year when I got back to top 50 pretty quickly. But then during Asian Swing, I had a very short turnaround after US Open. I came back home, was only home for like maybe less than 2 weeks, and went to play in Tokyo. I was there actually without a coach, by myself, and literally in the first game or second game, I've done my ACL. And I think, that kind of really stuffed me. I don't think I even like processed it properly. I literally called Luke and I was laughing, and he's like, what are you like, is this a joke? And I'm like, no, I've done my ACL. It hasn't been I haven't done the scans yet, but I just knew because it felt exactly the same. My first one. And then, once I saw the surgeon, I was like, why did that happen? And I remember that after my first surgery, he said that you'll have a 30% chance of doing your other one. But I thought that it would be like within, 5 years, not like 10 years later. So he said it's a little bit like, fatigue, but not fatigue from like that year. It's like career fatigue. But I think there's still not enough research done on ACLs, and I think again it was a freak accident. And just a little bit like the way I'm built, and now like working with Mark McGrath, there are some things that are folding, and you're like, okay, that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I think a lot of people wouldn't do that kind of work to understand their body and their patterns to know what sort of injuries they might be prone to with some of their gait or walking patterns or movement patterns. But also, it's just interesting because tennis players don't usually get ACL injuries. They're usually just from contact sports like football and soccer, when you're having to really change direction and you get knocked from the side as well. Yeah, so it's interesting to
There are
speculate. Like,
ACLs in tennis than I guess it used to be.
yeah,
There's a few more girls that have done it. Um, one of the boys did it,
Nishioka.
Nishioka, but
mm,
um, at least 5 female tennis players have done it.
mm, mm,
I mean, the girl that just made semifinals of French Open, Lois,
yes,
she's done her ACL
yes.
the year before French,
Mm,
and I was kind of texting with her and sending her some notes from like what I've done, and she was really eager to come back. She was like, "So when can I start hitting balls?" I'm like, "Girl, you've got a long way."
mm, mm, mm. Yeah, that must be hard when you're young and you're just keen to get out there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just quickly, Luke, I want to go back to what you were talking about with, you said you need to build weapons. So when you were world number one in the juniors, and then you found it a little bit challenging to transition to the men's game because you didn't have those weapons, is this something that you knew in your career that you actually wanted to address, or you kind of knew but you didn't address? Yeah, how did you kind of go about it? Or was it like later on where you're like, whoa, I just can't get past this point because I don't have the weapons to maybe compete with some of these players?
I think as a player, you're always super hopeful that you're just going to break through. I feel like I was close there, as I said earlier, when I was 20, and didn't break through then. But for the next 4 or 5 years, you have hope and you feel like you're close, and I think it's probably more a hindsight thing now that I've decided, because I've been asked a lot about why that transition didn't happen as smoothly as maybe a lot of people had hoped, including myself. I feel like I addressed it a little bit, and as I said, that I just struggled to put extra Ks on my serve later on in my career, and I feel like I was of course I was trying to make extra gains, trying to improve my forehand, make that bigger and heavier, but it is harder later on. There's less opportunities to train because you sort of just need to play. You just need to keep trying to accumulate points. And probably another one for me was not playing on clay enough. And I've spoken recently about this. And obviously, leading up to every French Open, you can play 8 weeks on clay. From late March right up until French, and then even post French if you want. But of course, someone like myself is going to get on the grass, and then after Wimbledon onto the hard court in the US for my game style. But I feel like every year I was trying to get points for Wimbledon qualifying, French Open qualifying. So my best chance for points was to go to Asia through sort of April and early May. And I just played that same swing in Korea and China so many times, and just wasn't able to go to Europe or even South America and prioritize developing my game a little bit on the clay, because conditions are slower. You actually have to generate pace off the ground, and that would have helped me put a bit more on my ball, and probably develop a bigger forehand, for example. So that's probably something where it was just one of those things. My team and I would sit down, like, what's our best chance to get 40 points here, or whatever it might be, and it's Korean challenges on hard court and China challenges on hard court. So that was probably one thing. But yeah, it's, as I went back to Thanasi, I really I look back on those times, have a great relationship with both Thanasi and Todd, and just really respect and admire them sort of sticking through the process of developing those big weapons, because sort of Todd had a vision for Thanasi, and it's great to see that he's done such great things in tennis. You look at Alexei Popyrin. Let's take Alex de Minaur, for example. Doesn't have the big game, but as I said, 2 weapons. He's got the he's got the movement, he's got the athleticism, and that's a huge, that's a massive strength. And then probably he serves decent, can still improve. Amazing backhand, solid forehand. So that's just I feel like you need those two. So yeah, looking back on that, that's probably the couple things, but it's more when you are sort of reflecting on your career that I've sort of come to conclusion now.
Yeah. The only way I see you can do it is you have to build it as a junior, or
Yep.
you almost have to take like months off the tour to build in the background, which is so tough if you're trying to actually, stabilize your ranking so you can actually get into events. So, yeah, not easy, not easy at
Yeah.
all.
I think while I think about the other thing that's very difficult is, as I mentioned, I played the same challenges over and over, and you see a lot of the same guys, and you can get stagnant, and you're sort of thinking, oh, like I'm starting to get stuck here, and that mentality can become very difficult. And I felt that was definitely me in my mid 20s. I was playing a lot of the same swings, sort of 6, 7, 8 times, and I was sort of posting the same results, sometimes worse than previous years, and that's when I really struggled. So I see juniors these days, or even 18, 19-year-olds, and when they get through challenges very quick, obviously they're great tennis players and they're destined to be top 100. But I think that's super important to try and get through challenges pretty fast, because there's less examples of guys sort of playing a lot of challenges for years after year, and then all of a sudden breaking through in their late 20s. There's not many examples of that.
Yeah.
So I think that's pretty difficult. And then it was last year. Obviously, I played doubles for 3 or 4 years full time, and that was mainly tour events. And top of the game, I went back to singles later in my career to have one more crack, and I got my nose inside top 300, so it was okay. But I had to go back and play some futures, and it really hit me last year when I was back at some futures that I'd played when I was 16, and also some challenges down in Burnie, Tasmania, that I played a lot, and in career as well, that I've been talking about. And I remember, I think I lost first round. I qualified, lost first round, and that's when it really hit me. I think I called Dasher, and I was like, "Well, 'cause I'm starting to struggle now." I feel like I'm the absolute optimist. I'm very positive, but it was at that point where I felt like maybe I was starting to see the end.
Yeah.
That's I think also like the some juniors or like young players, they win a challenger or a future and they like don't say in their post match in when they do the speech like, well, yeah, I don't really want to come back here.
Yeah.
Like next year I'll be playing at 250 or 500 somewhere.
Yeah.
I don't really want to come back to play this. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, it's tough. Like the levels that you jump, obviously, then jumping from futures to then challenges, and then jumping from challenges to tour, and actually staying on that, but then also kind of being half in between. It's like people would not understand how good you are to even be winning like a future. Like you are insane tennis player by anyone's standards. Let alone like even grinding the challenges tour. Like it's such high level, but then you're out there and you're literally playing in front of like 10 people, and it's like what is going on? So I guess this is a great opportunity to kind of lead into the burnout chat, but like I think this is part of it. Like we're not really, you guys aren't recognized. Well, obviously Dasha, you've been at like a very high level playing, top 20 in the world. I mean, that's an incredible achievement, but even just being on the challenger tour, and no one even is watching, like how tough is that?
Yeah.
I think it's tough, and I'm someone who feeds off crowd. I kind of love the entertainment part of my job, and when there's no one watching but um, your coach, if you're lucky, if you have the funds to have the coach around, yeah, it gets really tough, and um, I think yeah, everyone's dream is to play in front of big crowds, and then you're just grinding when there's no one watching. It's not fun.
Mm.
And yeah, when someone says like before a match, like, yeah, go enjoy, it's like, well, I'm probably not gonna enjoy this,
Mm.
but it is my job and I have to get it done. And you find other motivations and set your own goals in your mind. Um, Sometimes, when I play lower uh, tournaments, I play my own games in my mind, like let win 3 points in a row. How many times can I win 3 points in a row? Like, so I'm just always focused because well, like I mentioned, I lose focus. And sometimes, I mean, even on tour, I would think that I'm winning comfortably. And then all of a sudden I lose concentration. And, but when I play my own games, and keep myself accountable, that kind of gives um, that extra motivation to grind and to play tough every point.
Mm.
Yeah,
Um,
no, like there's definitely not enough recognition at futures level, and I use the AFL chat a little bit as well. Like if you're a top 400 AFL player in Australia, you're in a starting lineup in a team. Whereas if you're that in tennis, you're sort of you're grinding futures and not making any sort of money. So it's definitely the system that's a little bit broken in tennis, unfortunately, and that probably does lead to players getting burnt out. As we've seen lately, a lot of top players have come out and said they're struggling. Been saying it for a while. The season is too long. There's no. I don't think there's any other sport that is an 11-month season. So I think it can comfortably finish end of September, the tennis season, and 3 months off that's definitely not ridiculous. I don't think. Um, and especially a worldwide sport where there's travel involved and different time zones and
yeah.
whatnot. I think lately with the Masters series going to 2 weeks, it used to only be Indian Wells and Miami, but
Yeah, no one likes it, by the way.
there's
Mm.
week events, and we'll use Alex de Minaur as an example. He's seeded at these Masters and he doesn't play till the Thursday or Friday of the first week, but he's got to be there from the Sunday, Monday, and it's just a grind. I mean, it's obviously that's sort of his issue, and it's not a massive issue having a buy in a Masters. It's quite a nice problem to have, but it just stretches out the year. And he's come out, Casper Ruud's come out, Poprin, Zverev at Wimbledon recently. So I think it's only going to get worse. And I think the tours have sort of brought this upon themselves a little bit. It's too long. I think another thing that doesn't help is some of the top players are saying this and then in the off season going and playing exos and making X amount of money. And I know they'll use the example, it's not the same pressure as this and that, but it's still traveling. It's still Europeans going to America for them. It's still fronting up and playing in front of big crowds. It's still being physical. So I think that really hurts that discussion when they do that, the top players, and they're getting paid millions. I'd probably do the same, but it really hurts it. So that's one thing that I feel like they need to shorten the tour a little bit. And then someone even mentioned recently to me a mid-season break. So after Wimbledon, maybe 3 or 4 weeks, like the F1 do. I think they do a mid-season break, and I think that's an incredible idea. Give everyone a break through the middle of the year and then go again. So that could be another thing. And then the last thing is it's just so tough for Aussies as well. We have so much travel involved. I think like a Chris O'Connell, for example, the last 4 or 5 years, he goes over and bases himself in Croatia and just sort of goes there because he's from the northern beaches in Sydney. And I think he says when he comes home, he doesn't want to leave. So he just decides to not come home. Jordan Thompson, he based himself out of Bradenton in Florida. So it's just a couple examples that they stay over there.
It's not really feasible any other way. Like if you want to be an Aussie playing at that top level without having some sort of base.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, we never got something overseas. Possibly could have in hindsight, but we just sort of love coming home so much. And I personally felt that when I took weeks off overseas, even if I went to, say, Jordan's place, I just never felt quite refreshed. And I feel like that's the point of weeks off, is to not only physically decompress, but mentally as well. So I felt like only coming home allowed me to do that. So that was
Mm.
just a sort of a personal thing that I feel like a lot of Australians feel as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Daria, you obviously spoke about this on your story, and I used your example in the video that I made, highlighting Sarah's press conference as well, which you touched on, Luke. So, is it getting worse, or are people just speaking about it? And is it getting worse because of some of the things that Luke highlighted around the changes of the tour and some of the expansions they're making that is actually dragging out the events and dragging out the season? And I guess from your experience, what's happening and what is the consensus around from the players that you talk to?
Yeah, we tried to talk about it. I mean, we talked about it with Luke, and we're trying to figure out why is that you hear about it more. And I think part of it is because it's more acceptable. I think for sure players in the 90s, 2000s felt similar, but it was not acceptable. But yeah, the tour has gotten longer. The 2-week events are mentally tougher. Um, I do, yeah, we do get better, like amazing prize money, better prize money because of the 2-week events, but it comes with a cost again. And um, yeah, sometimes I wonder, are we just like getting soft, or and because it's like, oh well, the mental health card, but I don't think so. I think it's just more acceptable, and people talk about it more. And um I think it's also hard to break that cycle, like um freezing your ranking and taking a 6-month break. The tour doesn't stop anyone from doing that. You can easily do that, or you can take 9 months if you wanted to. um but it's hard to break that cycle, I think, because of because of the fear, like, of missing out on, a grand slam prize money, and so it's kind of easier to just keep going instead.
How are you only allowed to do that once in your career, the freeze? How does that work?
Well, I've frozen my ranking a few times because of my injury. I don't know how many times you can take mental health break.
Okay, but you
I
can
don't know
actually.
if it's a mental health break when you've retired and then you're like, well, actually, no, I'm coming back.
It's like I'm not sure yet, so let me freeze it and I'll make my mind.
Yeah.
Okay, so like, are there anything else that you kind of are seeing with the tour? Like, is this from higher up? Are they speaking about? Are they aware of this? Are they wanting to make changes? Is it all about just churning out and making money? And you guys are almost like the slaves making the money. Like, that's obviously like a dark kind of comparison or example to make. But is it kind of feel like that in a way? Like, do they
Well,
really care about your well-being?
ATP Tour has announced that they're shortening this season. Well, they're not shortening this season, but uh I mean, it's for challengers, right? That the what is it? That the later in the acceptance list for Australian Open comes out earlier. I don't know if it's because Tennis Australia wanted that, or what was the reason behind it. If the real reason was because they actually just wanted to encourage an off season. But I think that's like one mini step towards it, and I think WTA should follow it. Actually, I'm on the player council, and we're discussing that. And some people are like, well, let's leave it at that, or let's see what ATP does, and then we'll um how well, ATP has announced that already. I'm saying we should just see how it goes for ATP. And but that's a very mini step, but
Mm,
the tour is aware of it. Yeah, there are
mm.
many complaints.
Of course. Do you have anything
Yeah,
to add there, Luke?
probably two things. So there's a thing called the PTPA,
Yep.
a players association that's been trying to get some legs the last few years, and I think in short, they're just trying to have more of a player representation at a lot of these decisions in the decision making process with a lot of these tournaments and the length of the season and all that sort of thing. Because in the past, there really hasn't been. There's player councils, but they really don't have much of a say in the scheme of things. So there's sort of that, and I sort of want to touch on. There's a thing called mandatory events, and especially like the Master Series are mainly mandatories. And I'll just give you a quick example of what's happened in the clay court swing. Jordan Thompson, he got pretty badly injured, and he pulled out of the Madrid 1000, and then he went to Rome, and he was blatantly not ready to play again, but he was going to cop a very significant fine if he didn't play because it's a mandatory tournament. And the ATP was sort of saying that he could do a few exhibitions or a few clinics to get out of it. They told him 3 days prior to the tournament that no, he had no choice but to either play or pay this big fine. So he rocks up, and he had not been training for weeks, but he decided to hit for 3 days consecutive leading in, just for very lightly, just to condition himself a little bit. Went out there and played and won 6 in the third against Mapeshi Pericard, and then the next day, I think that was a knee injury. No, that was an oblique injury. Sorry, he tore his oblique. But the next day, he did his back. He did a bulging disc in his back. He couldn't walk. He couldn't put his shoes on. Couldn't put his socks on. And now he's still got a chronic back injury since then. And he had to pull out of his next round. And it's just, again, that's just a little example that a lot of people don't see, that they can't possibly have the players' best interests at hand, their welfare, their wellness. That for me is just a little bit crazy. So I think the tour can do a better job of servicing the players more.
With those rules, withdrawing rules, sometimes there's not much common sense, and there are set rules, and it's very, very extreme. What's the word? Oh my God, extreme
examples.
Yeah, extreme examples where you can pull out, like, it's without a fine if you've already used all of your withdrawals prior to that, and it's like you literally have to be dying.
Yeah. So why are there the mandatory events? Like, so is that for anyone in the top 100, or how does that?
So the tour has the best players competing in those tournaments, and that's why they've increased prize money. So it's give and take.
Okay. But do you think it would work just as good if it wasn't mandatory and you could just play whatever schedule you wanted and however many tournaments? Like, if you're one of the best players, you can just play less tournaments and the ones you want to play, and know that you got to just get results, but you back yourself in to get results.
I think tournaments are scared with putting up this much prize money and then not having your, like, an Alcaraz or Coco Gauff and Sabalenka, Iga playing, and Sinner, like the top players, because ultimately they're the ones that make the tournaments, those top players. So I think that's why there are rules for that.
I feel like that would improve the burnout situation, though. You know what I mean? Like, because the level would still be insane, and it would give a platform to some other players to become stars, and then other players underneath get more of an opportunity, and then it kind of fills in some players to get up into the challenges when they might not normally play challenges, and it kind of just feeds up a little bit more, and everyone kind of wins, and you get to play the schedule you want to play on your own timeline without maybe gassing out.
Oh yeah, for sure. I don't mind the mandatories, but just be more lenient with the withdrawals and allowing players to pull out if they're not ready to compete. Because, as you said, it would help the burnout situation. The tour as a whole would be healthier, and I think it would stop players getting injured as much as well, and giving lower ranked players more opportunities. So, and I think like a lot of the players still would play. They're still getting amazing fields. So I think it's just one of those ones where the tours need to do a better job of helping the players. And who knows, a few more top players come out, because that's probably who they're only going to listen to, is the ATP and WTA. So it's I feel like there might be a change coming real soon, because I feel like it's quite significant at the moment. There's a lot of top players coming out, and it's completely real. And I think that there's going to be a serious issue if they don't do something and lighten the load a little bit. I saw Dan Evans recently sort of saying, he went the other way and saying how good it is that players have so many opportunities to compete, and there's people in less fortunate positions around the world with work that don't have that. So he was saying we sort of he was taking that stance, if you like. So
there's both sides for sure.
That made me think, really did. Maybe he's right, but I also think when they've got all these rules in place and whatnot, it's much easier said than done to pick and choose what weeks you want to do.
Yeah, you're kind of cornered in a way. Yeah, to make that decision. Yeah. So guys, for you, what's your future look like together? Like, have you obviously together a long time, married? Are you thinking family? Is that on your mind? Obviously, Daria, you're in your career still. Does that ever cross your mind?
Yeah, for sure. And last year, I decided to freeze my eggs, not knowing how long I want to play for. So that's obviously, I obviously think about it, and we talk about it a lot. But it's nice to have Luke supporting me and traveling with me now. And we don't know where it's gonna take us, but yeah, um, I'm not sure where I'm at in my head with like where my motivation is. But to be fair, I feel a lot better this time around coming home after Wimbledon. And we spoke about it. If it wasn't Wimbledon, I probably wouldn't have gone to that early back to Europe, back to UK. But now I feel like I've been taking it easy for the last few weeks, that I'm kind of getting that motivation back and the urge to to work hard. So hopefully we'll be going to US together and starting there.
Beautiful. And what's it been like having Luke as a just with him? You've got great insights in the game, Luke. So have you been able to really help Daria just with your tennis IQ? And has that been helpful for you, Daria?
Yeah, I've been really enjoying having Luke around. I mean, I think you've said it before as well. You're supporting me more like a husband than a tennis coach. But I definitely have full trust in Luke with his tennis. And it's not rocket science, to be fair, especially like with the level that he's played. And Luke's very professional, and he also helps me out with off-court training, which I really enjoy, and kind of felt like when I started working with Mark that sometimes when I was alone or with a coach who hasn't had that training experience, I was kind of getting lost, and that's been really helpful with Luke helping me with some of Mark's stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the main part is just having my husband around.
That's so nice. Yeah, that's so good that you guys get to spend that time together. And then Luke, you obviously have the skill set to just support and play many different roles, whatever's needed, and then just be there by our side through the good and bad times, which is awesome. That's so good. Well, guys, thank you so much. I know you've been very generous with your time, so I really appreciate it. And yeah, very grateful to have the discussion. And I think we touched on some excellent points today. And we wish you guys all the best with the future together, and also Daria, wishing you all the best for whatever is rest of your career, and just hope you can keep finding some joy on the court and find the place internally for you that feels right to be on court for your own personal reasons. And just keep on going. We're behind you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ollie. Enjoy the chat, mate. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thanks again.